chapter 59 follows chapter 58. And in chapter 58, the five of the queens that married Krishna are described in chapter 58. So who was the first? Go back to Krishna still in Mathura. The circumstance of Krishna's leaving Mathura, on the outside, it looked like, at least to Jarasandha, it looked like Krishna was afraid of him. Although Krishna had completely defeated Jarasandha 17 times. But when he ran from the battlefield on the 18th time and ran up a mountain, and Jarasandha couldn't find him, so he lit the mountain on fire. Krishna and Balaram jumped from the mountaintop, and it was a big mountain. You know how tall was the mountain? 10 yojans. You know how tall that is? 80 miles. Have you ever seen a mountain that's 80 miles tall? I've never seen one. Massive flying in the air, 35,000 feet. How many miles is that? 5,280 feet per mile, right? So 80 miles, that's a big mountain. He and Balaram jumped. And what happened when they landed? Well, they didn't even land. The chariot came to whisk them away in great speed to Dwarka. Mystical. It was the pastime. What was the pastime? Krishna was to marry Rukmini. But before Krishna married Rukmini, what happened? Balaram married. Balaram, the elder brother, married first. And who was his wife? Revati. Wonderful story of how that happened. And then Krishna married Rukmini. There was 3 chapters describing that marriage. And then the next chapter is her son, Pradyumna. Something very similar, not the same, but very similar to when Krishna was born, happened with Pradyumna when he was born. Not even 10 days after Pradyumna was born, he was kidnapped by a demon. The demon had heard that his arch rival had taken birth in the form of Pradyumna. He kidnapped Pradyumna, threw him in the ocean or river, threw him in body of water. And a fish swallowed little baby, must be a big fish. A fisherman caught the fish. And it was such a big fish, he thought this should be given to the king. So he gave it to the king, who was a demon. The fish was given to the cook. When the cook opened up the fish, what did he find? Pradyumna. And it's a long story, but the assistant of the cook was in Pradyumna's previous life. Well, let's do it this way. Pradyumna had an expansion, right? Krishna can expand. So Pradyumna can also expand. And Pradyumna is the original Cupid. And a partial expansion of Pradyumna was the demigod Cupid, or Kaladev. This is good for children. You can hear a nice story. Cupid got carried away. Cupid decided he wanted to test his power against Lord Shiva. That was a big mistake. He approached Lord Shiva ready to fire one of his Cupid arrows. What did Shiva do? He just looked at him, and from his forehead came fire, and he burned into ashes. And instantly, he became a pile of ashes. So the wife of Cupid, the demigod Cupid, was without a husband. Her name was Rati. Rati went to Lord Shiva, who had burned her husband, with the purpose of appealing to Lord Shiva, please let my husband take birth again, so I can have husband. When he went to Lord Shiva at the very same time, the demon came. The demon's name was Shambhara. Shambhara. And so Lord Shiva said, Shambhara, you can ask for your benediction first. And when he saw Rati, he said, I want to marry her. Lord Shiva said, so be it. Rati said, he said, don't worry. He will never touch you. And by being with him, you will regain your husband. And that can happen. She then became a cook in Shambhara's kitchen. So when the cook opened the fish, she saw this little child. Narada Muni came to visit her. Said, yes, correct. That child, that's your husband. He took birth. You appealed to Lord Shiva. He took birth this way. So take good care of him. So when he grew up, she, Rati, was also known by another name in the kitchen of the king of Shambhara, Mayavati. Started, looking at beautiful, virile, strong, handsome Pradyumna instead of like a mother, like a lover. And he said, my dear mother, this is not so appropriate. Because he was still thinking she is his mother. Although he's Pradyumna, who is omniscient. It's a pastime. It was done purposely so that this pastime could be carried out. So long story. Pradyumna, encouraged by her, engaged in battle with Shambhara, defeated him. Together, Pradyumna and Rati now touched by Pradyumna, became fully spiritualized and became his wife, the first son of Rukmini. Then came the next two queens. Who were the next two queens? Queen number 2 and 3. Jambavati, Satyabhama. So the whole Shamataka jewel story is narrated. Then came, some other things happened. Then came the next 5 queens. So that's 8 queens, 5 plus 3. Your daughter's sitting in your lap. 5 plus 3? How much is 5 plus 3? 8. So Krishna now has 8 queens. And all he needs now is another 16,100. So that's what this is. The killing of the demon Naraka. Naraka means hell. So he's a demon. Who is Narakasura? He's the son of Mother Earth. Look at that fellow, the son of Mother Earth. Because he's the son of
Bhumi, Mother Earth, he's also called Bhauma. Bhauma. Naraka and Bhauma, or Bhaumasura. So he's also Bhauma. And how did that happen? How did he, Bhauma, become the son of Mother Earth? It happened when Lord Varaha was lifting Mother Earth, and after that service of lifting Mother Earth,
it was a combination of Varaha, Supreme Lord, and Earth, and the son was born, Bhauma. It is said in other Puranas that Narakasura was the son of Datritri, the Lord, by the Lord himself. This is third canto, where Prabhupada says that this understanding of how Bhauma became the son of Earth and Lord Varaha is told in other Puranas. So how did the son of Earth and Lord Varaha become a demon? How does anyone become a demon? Bad association. Good can become bad. That's why parents are always concerned about who their children are with, because good can become bad. He became a demon due to the bad association of Bana with another demon. Who is Bana? Bana. Banasura? Who is Banasura? Yeah?
He was a demon with 1,000 arms.
Yeah. You know the story. Birth is not, this is from Prabhupada's purport. Birth is not always the criterion of goodness, unless and until one is trained in the culture of good association, one cannot become good. And even if someone is good, one can become bad by bad association. So watch out, kids. Associate with good people. Vanasura, who had 1,000 arms, was the oldest son of King Bali. And as we know, Bali was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of Asuras, but he was a great devotee. And his grandson, Bali, was a great devotee. But Bali's son, the eldest of his 100 sons, was Bana, and Bana was bad. In the painting here on the right side, there's Bana with some of his 1,000 arms, and he's having a battle with Krishna, who's over there in the center. And there's Balaram with his club, and there's Lord Shiva being hit with the yawn weapon. So that's because Krishna didn't want to harm him. And down at the bottom right, that's Ganesh, engaged in battle over there. And other demigods up in the sky. So big battle. So Bana was the bad association for Valma. So Valma became Asura, like Vana was an Asura. So here's King Parikshit asking questions about all of this. Valma, I heard that Valma imprisoned 16,000 to 16,100 women. How did he do it? By what means was he killed by the Lord? Please describe all these deeds with details of cause and effect. It's in the first verse of chapter 59. I desire to hear about the Sharanga bow. Or Sharanga Das. Some persons mispronounce his name, Saranga. Not Saranga, Sharanga. Sharanga means Krishna's bow. So we're going to hear about how Krishna got his bow. Nice. Shukadeva Goswami replies, after Bhauma was the son of Bhumi Varaha, after Balma had stolen the earrings belonging to Indra's mother. Who was Indra's mother? Aditi, right? Along with Varuna's umbrella and the Devata's playground at the peak of Mandara mountain, Indra went to Krishna and informed him of these misdeeds. Indra said, Valma, also called Naraka, the controller of Prajotisha, is disturbing all living beings, the Devatas, Siddhas, sages, and kings. Oh Lord. There's Indra with so many eyes all over his body. He has kidnapped young women, 16,100 of them, and locked them in his palace. He has stolen Varuna's umbrella, which flows with water. That's an interesting umbrella, isn't it? Umbrellas are supposed to stop the water, but Indra's umbrella showers water. He has stolen the jeweled peak of Mandara, that's a mountain. The demon stole my mother Aditi's shining earrings, which flow with nectar. Not only that, he desires my elephant, Airavata. So Krishna decided to have some fun. He took Satyabhama. And there's a reason why he took Satyabhama. The Lord, taking his wife Satyabhama with him, then rode on Garuda to Prajotishapura, which was surrounded on all sides by fortifications consisting of hills, unmanned weapons, water, fire, and wind, and by obstructions of Mura Pasha wire. What's Mura Pasha wire? There's not any search. The closest I could get was it's a not like something like barbed wire, but not barbed wire. So a series of wires or mesh of wires that make something impenetrable, called Murapasha wire. So here's an aerial drawing of the city. There's all those circles around the city, its palace, and those are the moats and the wires and the fortifications to keep people out. For Krishna, no problem. Now, why did Krishna take Satyabhama? Look at that nice painting. Buddha's chanting japa. Look at that. And Krishna's got his club. And he's got his Sudarshan chakra over there on the left side. There's his left arm. Lotus flower. Why? To give his adventurous wife a novel experience. Further, Krishna had once granted the blessing to Bhumi, the earth goddess, that he would not kill her demoniac son without her permission. Krishna made that promise. Since Bhumi is an expansion of Satyabhama, the latter could authorize Krishna to do the needful with the unusually nasty Narakasura. You don't like masks, right? I can tell she doesn't like that. But it's just to keep everybody safe for a little while. Yeah. Just tolerate it. Yeah. Krishna keeps his promise. Here's what Vishwanath Chakravarti taught for us. In the heat of battle, Queen Satyabhama would naturally become anxious for Lord Krishna's safety and pray for the battle to end. Thus, she would readily give permission to Krishna to kill the son of her expansion, Bhumi. Look at that painting. There's Garuda with his claws out, Krishna with his bow, but Satyabhama screaming, get him. And there's Narakasura on the top of the elephant. Finally, Satyabhama had been miffed, like disturbed, when Narada Muni brought a celestial parijata flower to Queen Rukmini. Now, in some cases it says Krishna brought, and in some cases it says Narada Muni brought, but in any case, if Rukmini gets one flower, I want a tree. To pacify Satyabhama, Krishna had promised her, I'll give you a whole tree of these flowers. And thus the Lord scheduled this procurement of a heavenly tree within his itinerary. So stay tuned for that wonderful event. There he is again. There's Krishna flying over the Prajotisha, see the fire and the moat and the wire and that whole thing. With his club, the Lord broke through the rock fortifications. With his arrows, the weapon fortifications. With his disc, the fire, water, and wind fortifications. With his sword, the Mura Pasha, the dangerous wall of cables, obstruction. Now he's ready to go inside. With the sound of his conch shell, Gadadhar, then shattered the magic seals of the fortress. Mystical, magical seals of the fortress. Just with his conch shell. Along with the hearts of its brave defenders, and with his heavy club, he demolished the surrounding ramparts. Now look closely in this painting. In the upper right, you'll see Krishna on the back of Garuda, with him is Satyabhama, and down below, there's some demons getting smashed. One in the center, he's like half his body is split in two. And there's a bunch of disembodied other creatures. And there's the bottom right corner, there's the gate. But Krishna is flying in Garuda, so he doesn't even need the gate. How many heads does the Mura demon have? How many?
5.
5. You know your story. The 5-headed Mura demon who was sleeping in the city's moat awoke and rose up out of the water when he heard the vibration of Krishna's Panchajanya conch shell, a sound as terrifying as the thunder at the end of the cosmic age. He woke up and he was in a rage. There's Krishna on the back of Garuda with Satyabhama. And there's some demigods up at the very top of the painting. Shining with the blinding, terrible effulgence of the sun's fire at the end of a millennium, Mura seemed to swallow up the 3 worlds with his 5 mouths. He lifted up his trident and attacked the Lord, just as the snake attacks Garuda. Well, Mura lost his trident and he lost his head too. There he is, rising out of the moat. There's Garuda ready to claw to pieces. There's Krishna blowing on his conch, and Satyabhama behind him. In Prajotisha, the capital city, is in the background back there on the left. Mura whirled his trident and then hurled it fiercely at Garuda, roaring from all 5 mouths. The sound filled the earth and sky, all directions, and the limits of outer space until it reverberated against the very shell of the universe. We saw this painting before. Then, with 2 arrows, the Lord struck the trident flying toward Garuda and broke it into 3 pieces. Next, the Lord hit Mura's mouths with several arrows, And the demon angrily hurled his club at the Lord. Well, here he's losing his head. There's the Mora demon falling to the ground. As Mora's club sped toward him on the battlefield, Gadagraja intercepted it with his own and broke it into thousands of pieces. Mora then raised his arms high and rushed at the unconquerable Lord, who easily sliced off his heads, all 5 of them, with his disc weapon at the end of the Mora demon. There he is with his trident, looking pretty wicked. There he is losing his head with the disc. Look at over in the upper left. That's Krishna and Satyabhama on the back of a very interesting depicted Garuda. And then in the center, that's Mora losing his head. And over on the right side, that's the Narakasura getting the bad news. And you see there's the moat. He's come out of the moat, surrounding the palace. Lifeless, Mora's decapitated body fell into the water like a mountain whose peak has been severed by the power of Indra's thunderbolt. The demon's 7 sons, lamenting their father's death, prepared to retaliate. He had 5 heads and 7 sons. That's Mura. Ordered by Brahmasura, Mura's 7 sons, Kamra, Antariksha, Shravana, Vibhavasu, Vasu, Nabhasvan, and Aruna, followed their general, Pitha, onto the battlefield, bearing their weapons. Krishna killed them all. No details given. But there you see, there's Krishna and Satyabhama letting the demons have it. And there's some demons coming rushing out of the palace to have more battle, but Krishna finishes them. Narakasura, the son of the earth, could not contain his fury when he saw the fate of his military leaders. Thus, he went out to the citadel with elephants born from the milk ocean. Elephants born from the milk ocean. For exuding mudda from their foreheads out of excitement. What's mudda? When elephants are in a furious state, particularly it's known at mating time, there's from the temples of their forehead comes some substance, dark substance called mudda. I learned about this from Rupa Goswami's Padyavali. A very nice verse, early, like verse number 3 or so, in Padyavali. There's glorification of Krishna. And one of the things that says that he, whose body was smeared with the mudda from Kupayapita, was very fragrant. Apparently, this substance in mating season attracts the female elephant, so it's a very fragrant smell. But he is in this mad state. So, elephants born from the milk ocean who are exuding mudda from their foreheads out of excitement. And here's the explanation. He emerged from the fort with elephants born from the milk ocean. This means that the elephants came in the family of Airavata, who came from the milk ocean. So descendants of Airavata. He was called Naraka because from birth he had a wicked nature, taking human heads in his mouth. as soon as he was born. It's a nice painting. Huh? One person. Krishna and his wife, mounted upon Garuda, looked like a cloud with lightning sitting above the sun. Seeing the Lord, Boma is remember this is his father, or Varaha's the source from which Varaha came, Krishna. Boma released his Shatagni weapon at him, whereupon all of Boma's soldiers simultaneously attacked with their weapons. So there's Krishna on the left. There's Garuda carrying Krishna, below Krishna. And here's the army coming charging at him. And the chief fighter was Boma. And so a bunch of soldiers, a big confrontation. Hari then struck down all the missiles and weapons the enemy soldiers threw at him, destroying each and every one with 3 sharp arrows. Meanwhile, Garuda, as he carried the Lord, struck the enemy's elephants with his wings. Beaten by Garuda's wings, beak and talons, the elephants fled back into the city, leaving Narakasura alone on the battlefield to punish Krishna. But guess what? Seeing his army driven back and tormented by Garuda, Boma attacked him, Garuda, with his spear, which had once defeated Indra's thunderbolt. But though struck by that mighty weapon, Garuda was not shaken. Indeed, he was like an elephant hit with a flower barrel. There she is. She's got the bow this time. There's the city of Prajotisha down below. And Garuda's got a tree in his beak. Boma, frustrated in all his attempts, took up his spear to kill Krishna. But even before he could release it, the Lord cut off his head with his razor sharp chakra as the demon sat atop his elephant. There's Satyabhama pointing, giving, go ahead, get him. Because remember, it was a promise. Krishna keeps his promise. Fallen on the ground, Balmasura's head shone brilliantly, decorated as it was with earrings and an attractive helmet. As cries of alas, alas, and well done arose, the sages and principal devatas, they're pictured on the right over there, worshipping Mukunda by covering him with flower garlands. Now here is Garuda carrying Krishna and Satyabhama in a little asana. It's very comfortable. The goddess of the earth, that's Bauma's mother, Mother Earth, then approached Krishna and presented him with Aditi's earrings, which were made of glowing gold and laid with shining jewels. She also gave him a Vaijayanti flower garland, Vruna's umbrella, and the peak of Mandra mountain, because those are the items that he had stolen. Now, do you have a Bhagavatam in your home here?
Yes.
Could you please get Canto 10, Chapter 59, and open it up to pages. Your handheld device can show it, but I like those. Just go ahead. Go right in front of the camera. No problem. I should have thought of this ahead of time. So what's going to happen? Mother Earth is going to offer prayers. Here's the summary of these prayers. Obeisances unto you. He identifies Krishna as the chief of the demigods, the holder of the Conch-Diskin Club, the supreme soul within the heart. Is everything right?
I'm not sure.
That's true. Goddess Bhumi said, here's Goddess Bhumi. Obeisances unto you, O Lord of the chief demigods, holder of the Conch-Disc Club, supreme soul within the heart, you assume your various forms to fulfill your devotees' desires. Obeisances unto you. My respectful obeisances unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like lotus flowers, like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Obeisances unto you, the Supreme Lord Vasudev Vishnu, the primeval person, the original seed. Obeisances unto you, O Omniscient One. Obeisances unto you of unlimited energies, the unborn progenitor of the universe, the Absolute. O soul of the high and the low, O soul of the created elements, O all-pervading supreme soul, obeisances unto you. Desiring to create, O unborn master, you increase and then assume the mode of passion. You do likewise with the mode of ignorance when you wish to annihilate the universe, and with goodness when you wish to maintain it. Nonetheless, you remain uncovered by these modes. You are time, the Pradhan, and the Purusha, O Lord of the universe, yet still you are separate and distinct. This is illusion that earth, water, fire, air, ether, sense objects, demigods, mind, the senses, false ego, and the total material energy exist independent of you. In fact, they are within you, my Lord, for one without a second. And now she's going to appeal on behalf of the son of Bomasura. This is Grandma, saying on behalf of her son. Here is the son of Bomasura, frightened. He is approaching your lotus feet, since you remove the distress of all who seek refuge in you. Please protect him. Place your lotus hand, which dispels all sins, upon his head. And actually, Krishna is very pleased, so he's showing his benediction mudra. Shukadev Goswami said, thus entreated by Goddess Bhumi, in words of humble devotion, the Supreme Lord bestowed fearlessness upon her grandson, and then entered Bomasura's palace, which was filled with all manners of riches. So there's the palace. And Krishna is going to go inside. It looks like Krishna is already inside in this painting. There's another depiction that we saw a little diagram before, where Krishna is on the outside, on the right. Now Krishna has gone in, still on the Garuda. And who is he going to meet? Krishna recovers the 16,100 princesses who were kept captive by Bhamasura. Look carefully at this painting, not only the ladies that are there below him, look up in the balcony above, because 16,108 ladies, they're going to take a lot of space. The women became enchanted when they saw that most excellent of males enter. In their minds, they each accepted him who had been brought there by destiny as their chosen husband. With the thought, may Providence grant that this man become my husband, each and every princess absorbed her heart in contemplation of Krishna, very Krishna conscious. The Lord had the princesses arrayed in clean, spotless garments, and then sent them in palanquins to Dwarka, together with great treasures of chariots, horses, 64 elephants, and other valuables. Now it sounds like this is 64 elephants for each 16,108 queens. 100. That's a lot of elephants, a lot of chariots, a lot of horses. The Lord then went to the abode of Indra, the demigod's king. Well, he's got to return the earrings. And gave Mother Aditi her earrings. There Indra and his wife worshipped Krishna and his beloved consort Satyabhama. Notice what's in Garuda's cross down there. It's a serpent, a little snap. Now this is not from Bhagavad Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam. Vishnu Purana tells the story of taking the Parijata tree. Krishna saw that Parijata, filled with fragrance, laden with massive buds, producing coolness and joy, decorated with pink, yellow, young shoots, and golden bark. It had been produced from the churning of the milk ocean. On seeing that tree, Satyabhama spoke to Krishna. Oh, best of the Brahmanas. Now she's not addressing Krishna that way, it's the narrator. Oh, Krishna, why can this tree not be brought to Dwarka? If your words are true, and I am really dear to you, please bring that tree for the garden in my house, O Krishna. You have many times said that you do not desire Jamavati or Rukmini as much as you desire me, O Govinda. If you have spoken truth and your words are not just a decoration, then the Parijata should decorate my house. Carrying a bud of the Parijata in my hair, among all the co-wives, I will be glorious. This is what I desire. Sounds pretty selfish, doesn't it? When Satyabhama speaks in very surprising ways, it has everything to do with what's pleasing to Krishna. Because we find in Rupa Goswami's writings that Rukmini is Chandravali and Satyabhama is Radha. That's a very long explanation found in Rupa Goswami's Vedanta Madhava. If you have patience and you can slowly go through his writings, you'll understand what I just said. So sometimes Radharani would say things to Krishna that were surprising. This is also surprising. It's not now. This is not Rupa Goswami's writings. This is Vishnu Purana. But in any case, this is how Satyabhama is speaking to him. Completely conquering Indra, he brought the tree to Dwarka as his reward for helping Indra. Once planted, the Parijata tree beautified the garden of Queen Satyabhama's palace. Bees followed the tree all the way from heaven, greedy for its fragrance and sweet sap. There's the Parijata tree in Dwarka. And there's it's like Satyabhama is watering the tree, right? A special tree. Again, Vishnu Purana, by desire, the tree of Krishna would become small or large. It was most remarkable. Sometimes its branches covered the whole of Dwarka. Sometimes it could be held in the hand, becoming as small as a thumb. Pretty amazing. So back to Srimad Bhagavatam. Even after Indra had bowed down to Achyuta, touched his feet with the tips of his crown, and begged the Lord to fulfill his desire, that exalted Devata, having achieved his purpose, chose to fight with the Supreme Lord. Jupiter Goswami is angry. What ignorance there is among the gods! To hell with their opulence. Because Krishna said, "Yeah, I'd like this reciprocation. Please give me a tree." No. Then I'll have to fight you for it. Yes. And he was defeated. There we see Krishna holding the tree and taking off. Down below on the right is Indra doing battle, trying to stop him. Then the imperishable Lord, assuming a separate form for each bride, duly married all the princesses simultaneously, each in her own palace. Yeah. Jiva Goswami writes, he married them simultaneously in different places at an auspicious moment like the sunrise. He took as many forms as there were brides. This one form appeared in many places, was not a different form. The Lord, performer of inconceivable, performer of the inconceivable, constantly remained in each of his queen's palaces, which were unequaled and unexcelled by any other residence. There, although fully satisfied within himself, he enjoyed with his pleasing wives, and like an ordinary husband, he carried out his household duties. That carrying out his household duties is described in chapter 70, and in chapter 69 it describes Narada's visit to Dwarka and what he experienced in visiting the palaces and the queens and the this and the that. So the Dwarka gets a lot of attention. And it's rightly so, because how many years did Krishna stay in Dwarka? Let's do it backwards. How old was Krishna when he left this world? 125. How old was Krishna when he left Vrindavan? According to Jiva Goswami, 10 years, 8 months. 10 years, 8 months. So he was 11 when he received his Diksha from Gargamuni, because Kshatriya boys, that's common or standard. And then It doesn't give, it's hard to find. I searched and asked scholars and so forth. The answer I got is there's lots of description about his pastime, but not so much description about chronology. But it appears that he spent about 25 years in Mathura. 25 years. So you subtract 25 and 10 years, 8 months. That's how long he was in Dwarka. Subtract 125. He was in Dwarka a lot. In and out. He did other things. But it was a long time. Major pastime. But just for the short duration of the 10 years, 8 months, how much is in the Bhagavatam of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan? Fine. Although the Supreme Lord's queens each had hundreds of maidservants, they chose to personally serve the Lord by approaching him humbly. Conclusion, Prabhupada's chapter summary. In this chapter, Krishna, at the request of Indra, kills the demon Narakasura, the son of the earth personified, along with the demon's associates headed by Mora. The earth personified offers prayers to Krishna and returns to him all the paraphernalia that Narakasura had stolen. Krishna then bestows fearlessness upon the son of Narakasura and marries the 16,000 princesses whom the demon kidnapped. Also in this chapter, Krishna takes away the Parijata plant from the heavenly planets, and the foolishness of Indra and others is described. So there's chapter 59. So it's like reading the Krishna book chapter. How many you like reading Krishna book? Every night?
No.
How often?
I read them every once in a while.
You read them or your mom reads them to you?
Sometimes, but mostly I read it by myself.
You have the children's version or you have the adult version?
I read the children's version.
So you've seen some of these illustrations because they come from the children's version. A lot of nice pictures, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if there's some discussion. Katyam tastamam nityam tushanti chandramanti cha. You like hearing and then discussing with one another Krishna's nice pastimes. Tushanti chandramanti cha.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful story. So when we see Krishna, like there are so many pastimes we can relate. Relate means we can have a relation, but worship Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's always the relation is very reverential.
It's always what?
Reverential relation. All reverence.
I can't catch what you're saying. I'm sorry.
It's the relation is always awe and reverence.
Awe and reverence.
Yeah. So, how to improve that? Like when we worship, not just awe and reverence, but how can we go?
Okay. Well, worship should be deity worship. This is the training that we receive. We may hear stories that inspire, awaken spontaneous love, but in worship we follow the vidhis, the rules and regulations, and there are stages of deity worship where it's quite spontaneous. Let's take the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, worshipped the Govardhan Shila, right? And what was his method of worshipping Govardhan Shila? Was it spontaneous or was it rules and regulations? Absolutely spontaneous. We don't hear of anyone worshipping a Shila of the Lord. Yeah. But it was so. You've seen pictures, photos of the Govardhan Shila. It has a thumbprint because he would rub it and rub it and rub it. He worshipped that Shila for 3 years, but it has a thumbprint in the top of the Shila from his rubbing and rubbing and holding to his heart and holding to his eyes and crying. And then he gave that Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami. We just discussed this past weekend. Raghunath Das said specifically that deity worship should be done according to rules and regulations. And Raghunath Das was on the platform of spontaneous love. He's our Prayoja Guru. That deity worship is to be done with regular practice. Now, when you're doing deity worship, you may be hearing Krishna stories. Some people do that. The stories are describing something that's very spontaneous. But the worship is in a regulative manner. So what's going on the inside may not be what's going on the outside. What's going on the outside may not be what's going on the inside. Mahaprabhu taught us that, and our acharyas teach us that deity worship is to be spontaneous. Deity worship is to be regulative. There was a disciple, a contemporary of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He was a Babaji, and he was on the spontaneous platform. And he told, on the one hand, the disciples to not associate with him because you won't understand him. But he had great regard and reverence for him because it wasn't pretense. It was spontaneous love. He would chastise his deity, and he was very intimately connected, consciousness-wise, and then transmitted in the form of his deity worship. But we're not there, so our deity worship is regulative, and even in the spontaneous stage, Raghunath Das Goswami is described as his regulations were fixed like lines in a stone. He lived for 92 years. 45 of those 92 years were at Radhakund. 16 years prior to that, he was in Puri during the stage of Mahaprabhu's ecstatic exhibitions of out of this world emotion, being explained everything what was going on with Mahaprabhu by Srup Damodar. But he is at this elevated consciousness stage, but outside doing regulations. He would visit the temples around Radhakund every day, 100 obeisances to deities, 200 obeisances to the devotees, 64 rounds every day on a completely spontaneous platform. He's like a great model for how to render devotional service externally in a regulative fashion, even while internally on the spontaneous stage. That's right like this. So does that answer your question?
Hey, Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you so much for the nice class. The question I have is, you said Satyabhama did things to please Krishna. So Satyabhama did the things to please Krishna. So when we see, and I think in your prior lectures you mentioned she's right wing or left wing. So can you please elaborate more on that, like how she pleasing Krishna and otherwise how did the otherwise saw Satyabhama?
A nice example of this is in Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yes.
Okay. In part 1, Narada is on a quest. His quest is who is the greatest recipient of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. He goes from person to person to person. When he finally reaches Dwaraka, everyone points to Uddhava. He is the greatest recipient of the Lord's mercy. Meanwhile, Krishna didn't show up in the assembly hall. Everyone's wondering why. And the reason why was Krishna was feeling such intense separation from the residents of David that he lost it. Just lying in a dreary state, feeling separation from the residents of David. Many things happened. Without all the many things that happened, he decided he wanted to tell his queens what his true feelings are about the residents of Vrindavan, and particularly the gopis. And everyone assembled except one, the left-wing gopi, the left-wing queen, Satyabhama. So he sent for her, and he scolded her. But he enjoys that mood of Satyabhama. She does because he enjoys that mood of the happiness that Krishna feels. I think you're asking about the queens or the mood of left wing.
There's how the other queens take it when Abdullah is talking like.
Oh, there's diversity. Just she's a leader amongst, as Rukmini is a leader amongst, and there's diversity even when there's a leader. But acting in a way. So your question is how the others take it. There depends if they're right wing or left wing. How they take it. They think this is right, but they're not. It's a transcendental feeling. It's not a envy and competition feeling. It's a transcendental feeling. How the others take it. I mean, how there's not really so much description of how they take it, because everything is centered on the platform of pure love. Everything is centered on the Supreme. Everything is centered on Krishna. And between them, there may be some transcendental kind of competition, not a mundane kind of transcendental feelings, because this is the way to please Krishna. And what she's doing is not pleasing to Krishna anyway. The mode of pleasing Krishna is everything, and how different people take that standard of pleasing Krishna is going to be different for people. But all of those feelings, the main point is, all of those feelings are fully transcendental. Although they may look like, just like when I brought, the way Satyabhama was talking, it sounds like the selfish lady, proud and selfish lady. I don't want the truth. And then others are going to look up to me and go, she's got the truth. But it's a way of speaking that Krishna understands, and she understands that Krishna is enjoying that kind of talk. If it's coming from a place of pride, it's not at all pleasing, it's disgusting. If it's coming from a platform of love, it's a whole other experience. For the person speaking, the person hearing, and the others who are here. Anything else?
So, the entire book.
He's going to justify you keep speaking, and so he'll know what to do based upon your speaking.
So I'm trying to understand how when I hear a story like this, how to apply it to my life.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when I was ending the story. Like, how are we going to apply this? One of the main considerations when hearing Krishna's pastimes, in some cases, of course, they're instructive. Then in many cases, it's just hearing the, 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 the loving pastimes and the opulences and the features of Krishna. It's cleansing, purifying, and uplifting. And it draws one's attention in part because the stories are themselves very charming, but they're all spiritual. It lifts our consciousness to the spiritual plane. Not necessarily that there's practical to apply lessons other than hearing the topic of Krishna lift one's consciousness. I mean, I don't know about you, but often our days, even I could say even today, days are filled with things that are not, so elevating, very complicated and involved, and stuff. And so just leaving that to the topics of Krishna, especially when one's attracted to them, especially for a young boy here who knows this story like the back of his hand. It's very attractive. It carries one's thoughts to Krishna. Not necessarily the practical application, other than hearing Krishna's pastime lifts one's consciousness. Now, a practical application point is that dissociation corrupts. Another practical application is that the potency Krishna will protect those who are put into difficulty. Those who maintain faithfulness to Krishna will be protected by Krishna. Another is practical application, the love of a mother for her son, Bhumi, her son, Boma. But she knew Boma was dead. But then there's her grandson. So she offered her grandson to Krishna and requested Krishna for Krishna's benediction. And Krishna granted fearlessness. Now, who else does Krishna offer fearlessness to? There's a nice description, I'm sure you're aware, well, probably you're aware. In Ramayana, when Vibhishan surrenders, the most important verse in the entire Ramayana, according to the commentators, is Ram's statement, one who even once says, from this day forward I am yours and take shelter of you. From that day I give him fearlessness. So it's practical. Fearlessness comes, in his case, the grandson of Bhumi, or the son of Bhaumasura, he didn't speak, she spoke on his behalf. And Krishna granted her grandson fearlessness. Now, these are practical. You have a great personality appeal to the Supreme Lord on your behalf. And the great personality's appeal on behalf of you, the grandson was afraid. My father got smashed. I want to be protected. So his grandmother, the exalted soul, appealed to Krishna on his behalf and granted him fearlessness. Another practical, Indra, he went to Krishna to get what he couldn't achieve himself. Krishna brought back what he asked, And then Krishna is asking for some reciprocation. Pride. It's mine. That was, it's like Satrajit or Satrajit. He was proud. When Krishna wanted the Shamataka jewel, it's not like he wanted the Shamataka jewel. He wanted to relieve Satrajit of pride. Because of his pride, he couldn't. And he lost everything, including his life, because of his pride. The pride is insidious. An attachment to some opulence, like Indra and his, Parijata tree. One's intelligence can become completely bewildered by being attached to something and the pride that goes along with that attachment. He was defeated, no problem. But pride is very dangerous. The sense of gratitude, he was grateful until Krishna asked for the Parijata tree. Yes, no. So having great opulence can be a big problem. Not having great opulence, people go nuts to get opulence. Having it can be a big problem. It doesn't have to be. It can be. And so Krishna's kindness as he took away his opulence along with his pride. Go ahead, you want to say something further?
I was just, I was just wondering because I read a lot of the Bible, and when I read those stories, I feel like not that they're different from these.
You feel like what?
Not that they're different from these stories, but after going to church for such a long time, after they tell a story, they always tell you like practical ways to apply this to your life, like practical ways to be like Jesus. And so when I'm reading this, I'm just trying to understand the vibe that I see.
It's different. I mean, there are parts of. I appreciate your question. And excuse me for interrupting. But the feature Krishna gives, he does more than practical lessons of how to live your life. He shows the all attractiveness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the charm of Nama Rupa Guna Lila. He's showing all those things, not only showing here's some practical things that you can do to make your life better. I hadn't seen my sister in 16 years. So I brought some prasadam so we could have lunch together. While we're having lunch, I said, I want to explain to you why I wanted to do this, bring lunch, because this is sanctified. And I explained to her what the in simple terms, what offering food to Krishna is. I said, you remember, we would sit together at the table and say grace. We started reciting the prayer. We started saying the prayer together because we knew it from, because we said it every time we sat down at the dinner table. And I said, and this is a little different. That's included, saying grace, thanking God for maintaining us. And that's how a good person should live their life. But this is something different, something additional. I didn't use the word next step, but and that's my response to your question. Making the comparison, practical lessons are there, but who is that supreme person who Christ is the son of? What does he do? When I was little, we were all little. I used to be little too, and I remember asking my mother and father. We hear about we hear about heaven. What's it like there? What do people do there? Like, what's the travel advertisement, please? And they had nothing to say. I got a pat on the head. Oh, isn't that cute? And people would come to visit the house, and they would like, go ahead, say it. It was so embarrassing. I asked the priest. The priest didn't have an answer either. I stopped asking. But this is the answer. What's it like there? If you learn to be a virtuous person, not only a virtuous person, but a lover of God, because isn't that, the answer is yes. That is the teaching of all religion, to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your strength. So who is he? What does he do? What's it like there? This is the answer to that. And he's all attractive. It stimulates, in Sanskrit terms, it's udipat. It stimulates ecstatic love. It stimulates ecstatic love. Stimulates ecstatic love. Just like, there's stimulants. This is an ecstatic love stimulant. Hearing. And that's practical. Why is it practical? And what way is it practical? Because our lives here are struggling with the mind and senses to be good. And when the mind becomes attracted to the all-good Supreme Personality of Godhead and the loving exchanges that he has with his devotees, and the very creative ways that he does what he does, his almightiness, Lord God Almighty. I did it too when I was singing hymns from the hymnal, and how almighty is he? What does it look like? What's it like there? This is the answer. It's not two-dimensional. It's so the practical is to stimulate ecstatic love for Krishna, because when that stimulation is there, then it supports all goodness permanently. Uproots darkness from the very root, because why are we material existence to begin with? Because we turned our back on God. And turn your attention to God, but what do you see? This is what you see. For those that are able to tell you what good it is. So to me, that's very practical. Very practical. Become attracted to the all attractive. Become a lover of God. In fact, not just good, but a lover of God. So I was telling my sister, we would thank God, but this is more than thanking God. It's an offering. And therefore, I wanted to bring lunch for us because he didn't say prasadam, just said sanctified by that act of offering. So when you offer yourself to Krishna, what's the reciprocation? In heaven, Indra's the king of heaven. Look at what he did. He asked Krishna for help. Krishna brought exactly what he was asking for. And he's having battle with him because he wants a treat. Come on. That's a practical lesson. Becoming a resident of heaven and having vast opulence, great power, great longevity, and all attractive things. That's nice, but it's insufficient. Practical. I understand what your question is because I went through it. I mean, I understand it correctly because I went through it. Yeah. What's the, say it negatively? What's the root of evil? It's turning one's attention away. It's ignorance brings evil, evil conduct. What's the root? If you want to get rid of it, how do you get rid of it? What's the very, very root of our material existence? It's the ignorance of Krishna. So come to the light. Who is he? What's it like there? What do people do? What's their quality and the diversity and everything? The loving exchanges. And this is chapter 59 I just mentioned. Chapter 69, Narada says to Maharaj Pariksit says that Narada wanted to find out more, like when Krishna, what was it like in Dwarka? So he went. And there's a whole chapter describing what it was like. Then there's a whole chapter after that describing what Krishna would do every day. Now you want a practical application. This is love. This stimulates love of God. To know a person is to love the person. How can you love the person without knowing the person? You know the person, then it's become possible to love the person. Otherwise, it's notional. Love of God, who is he? I don't know. Or I'm being a little facetious, but how much can one say about God? And the Bhagavatam, these stories are filled with it. Its form. Princesses, 16,100 of them, just by seeing him, his beauty, said to them, I want to be his wife. Young 16,000 princesses, all with the same idea. How beautiful Krishna must have been in their eyes, etc. The all attractiveness of the all attractive is practical to make that connection. Yeah.
Was he celibate?
Who?
Krishna.
Why do you ask that question?
Because I'm wondering what the ideal is, how to relate to a woman. If you want to understand the truth.
With each, because his activities is not ours. Our activities are not his. He had children. With each queen, he had 10 sons and some daughters. So you're quite, his producing children is not like ours. In the conception, I mean, I don't mind going through this. In the conception of Krishna, there was no union between Vasudeva and Devaki. An immaculate conception. Krishna appeared in the mind of Vasudeva because his mind was pure, having meditated upon the Supreme. From the mind of Vasudeva to the mind of Devaki, from the mind of Devaki to the womb of Devaki, and he appeared from the womb of Devaki in 4 arms, with ornaments and full stature, etc. So all of Krishna's activities are transcendental, including his appearance and including his producing children. It's a mistake, fundamental mistake, to think otherwise, that his activities are like ours, or our activities are like his, and make a comparison. It's a fundamental mistake, because they're not. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very drawn towards monkhood. Can you tell
Me too. 54 years. 54 years. Count them.
Yeah, I feel very drawn to it, but I also feel like it's hard to break free from when I was previously indulging in like woman sex. So I feel like it's a very strange place to be because I feel so strongly drawn towards womanhood. I don't know what to do.
Well, that's different than asking you if was Krishna celibate. So, here's a simple answer to something that may not, in application, may not be so simple. But the simple answer is immerse yourself in the life dedicated to using the senses in the service of the master of the senses, that's Krishna. And in the course of doing that, immersing yourself in the life of using the senses and the mind in the service of the master of the senses, you'll get a clearer idea. Is it within your nature to remain like that, or is it within your nature to go, in a safe, secure, protected distance from that by being in the association of a wife that's not an object, but a companion to serve Krishna together with. I'll share with you something personal because you're doing it, so I'll do it. Sometime for some years in the Hare Krishna movement, I was the Sankirtan leader, and the Sankirtan leader meant every day as many devotees as possibly could would go out and distribute books and go on Harinam. And there was like lots of devotees that did that during that period of time. And some of them were men and some of them were women. And I was just like so absorbed in what I was doing. It was a blast. So one day I was pulled to the side by one of the, a friend, a senior person, really tall fellow, and asked me, "Do you want to get married?" And I figured it out later what happened. There was a girl that wanted to marry me, but I said no, thank you. Then he pressed it 3 times, like he wanted to really, don't just give me the brahmachari answer. Give me your personal answer. And then when I understood what he was doing, I said, look, I'm walking away from here if you keep asking this question. Yeah, I'm not unclear. I'm very happy with what I'm doing. And I don't have any consideration other than what I'm doing. I said, okay. He got the answer he was looking for. He said, is it so when your mind is fixed in your position of being a servant, say a brahmachari, a monk, just absorbed the real position of a renowned person is they're just absorbed. And they don't need other stuff. They're just absorbed in a life of simplicity and service. They're happy. There's a happiness inside. It's so full and so rich and so satisfying. There's no thought of something else. And when that's there, that's your life. And if that's not there, then that's not your life. But if you want to know clearly, you're attracted. So follow that path, and then you look inside and see: Am I satisfied? Am I feeling fulfillment? Not just grit your teeth and stay away from something that is alluring. Is it genuinely you? That's going to take some time. It's going to take some immersion in the lifestyle of one who's living a renounced life. And are you contented inside? Because temptations will come as you go along. It has to be something genuine. Otherwise, it won't endure. And then it becomes an embarrassment later on, perhaps. You want to respond? You look like you're digesting.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do feel so happy and inspired. And I can't even express it. I tried to go to an ashram in India. I got severely ill, and I had to come home. And ever since I've been home, I miss being over there. I'm so scared to go back because I got so severely ill, and that's why I'm here. I feel like I need a society to help me become what I want to become.
Good. That's smart. You can't do it on your own. You need the Sangha. Good for you. But it doesn't have to be geographically here or there or some other place. It's the right Sangha, yes. But it can be so many venues for the right Sangha. Okay. Anyone else? Thoughts, comments? Online.
This is from Snehali Mataji. Hare Krishna Gurmaharaj. Yesterday while reading Krishna book, I noticed in the chapter Krishna erects Dwarka fort.
Krishna did what?
Krishna erects the Dwarka fort.
He didn't. Krishna had Vishwakarma do it, yes.
The chapter's mentioned name.
Okay.
It states that Indra gifted the parta that treats Krishna for his new city. So how can we understand Krishna going again to the heavenly planets to get the trees?
Well, I don't know the reference, so I can't really say. But sometimes there's apparent contradiction. Generally speaking, she's a very careful person. So sometimes there's an apparent contradiction. You have to read it carefully. Read it carefully. Yes, you do. You read carefully. She reads carefully. And there could be a number of explanations. One explanation could be an editorial mistake. That's a possibility. Another explanation could be without indicating explicitly, this is a reference from this source, this is a reference from that source that don't match. You know, just like we read, Vishnu Purana says something, and the Bhagavatam says something different. But so Prabhupada didn't necessarily always identify the source from which he was speaking. Anyway, there's several possibilities. I don't have without seeing the reference. You can send it to me. I'm sure she will. Send me the reference. I'll take a look at it and see if I can help you sort out the apparent contradiction. Anything else? Okay. Okay. Looks like we're done. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki. Don't throw the microphone. I brought some Mahaprasada.